The Apollo solar generator is here. I'm running all sorts of tests on it right now. I've got 4 units. My batteries aren't here yet. Those got slightly delayed, but the units are shipping out. We have Apollos going out to people who pre-ordered, and I'm lucky enough to be in that initial run here. Now, I am running an air conditioner on this unit right now. I can see, sorry, my messy garage. Air conditioner over there. This is kind of an impromptu video. Just wanted to give you guys some sort of update. So far, they've done pretty much everything that has been advertised, and I'm going through all of those things. I've already linked 2 of these together in series today, and I was running split phase power. And so I had split phase coming out of it, and I was actually able still to run 120 volt power out of these front outlets, which is pretty cool. On my Delta Pros, which are units that I do like, I'm not able to actually get 120 volt power out of them when using 240. So on your Delta Pros, you got your voltage hub right here, and then it goes between the 2 units. And these front outlets stop working when you have the 240 volt on. So you basically have to connect it to a critical loads panel or their smart home panel, or in my case, I do an interlock switch so that way I can run my entire house up to the rated 30 amp output. And that has worked really well, but if there's something I need to plug in just right into the front of these, then I can't do that. But I can do that on the Apollos. I can still use 120 volt while it's also outputting 240 volt, which is the first of its kind that I'm aware of that's able to do that. Had the same issue with the Bluetti AC500. The major issue that I had with the Bluetti AC500 was that even though this is a NEMA 1450 receptacle here, it's only got 1 hot leg in it. You can't get 2 hot legs out of it. So I don't know how they rate it to 50 amps, but even though there's metal inside there, when you put a voltmeter on it, there's only 1 hot leg. Anyway, so you have to use their P030A fusion box, or fusion box, which is designed for the AC300 in order to get the 240 volt power out of these. But here they've got 120 volt options before the 240 volt options, which is pretty cool. But the downside is this can only output up to 6,000 watts, or basically 25 amps, because that's the rated output of the AC300. AC500 is supposed to have 5,000 watts output, but when you put 2 of them together, there isn't a fusion box that has 10,000 watt output capability. So it basically became pointless to go for the AC500 and do 240, because that extra 4,000 watts that you're supposed to be able to run, being able to run 10,000 instead of 6,000, is not possible. Now on day 3 of testing my Apollos, you can see I've got my camera and everything here, working on the efficiency test on this right now. This is at a 0.23 C discharge rate, and I'm just seeing how much energy you get out of it. And it's been running this air conditioner for a few hours now. So far, so good. You can see on the back there have been some updates, primarily the solar input. So now the solar input is just MC4 connectors right here on the back. Rather than having some sort of proprietary plug where you need an adapter, just one less thing. And then here is the power switch on the back, the battery switch. It's cool, it's got this cover on it. It's like starting up a jet engine. It's like boom, and then turn it right on. And it basically is a computer, so it takes 10, 15 seconds to get everything turned on. We've got our fans output right here, 2 battery expansion ports right here, 2 comms right here. This is the inverter reset switch. I've got my AC input. And let's see here. Oh, also a grounding port. And this is TUV certified. That's what that means. And TUV certified just basically means that they sent it to a third party that's unbiased, and they ran it through every single test imaginable to try to get these to fail. I know everyone's going to ask about the shock hazard. These no longer have a shock hazard. The original units did. These have been tested through and through. They've been beat up, thrown off of truck beds and stuff like that to see if they can get a voltage leak. And there's no voltage leak. So these are now 100% safe, which is great. They also have a high density plastic as the body now, which lightens the load a little bit, but it also makes them a little bit more aesthetic in some ways. But overall, they just decided to go with plastic instead of metal, which is fine. That's what all these other units were made out of. It's not either here or there. But they do provide these leather holder, or these leather covers here, which give it a nice aesthetic, very comfortable. They're still very heavy. They're like 125 pounds, something like that. They're still very heavy. I highly recommend having 2 people when putting them, setting them up for the first time. One of the cool features, though, that I've not seen in any other solar generator power station, but I've asked for in some units, especially like my Delta Pros, is the way that the fans work is when you have them all lined up together, you're actually taking hot air and blowing it into the other, or as well as dirty air. But these have a removable front and a washable filter right here on the front. And you can actually kind of see inside there a little bit, which is really cool. The inverter is not turned on right now. Let me go ahead and turn on the inverter. So when you first get it, you have to reset the inverter. There's a little flashing finger there, little flashing hand, and then you turn it on, you get a beep, and immediately the fans turn on. And you can't hear the fans, they're so quiet. But watch, you can see this is suctioning right to this. It does have good airflow, and it has huge airflow. I mean, this whole thing is for airflow, for ventilation, which is pretty impressive because we're used to tiny little fans. And the issues with the tiny fans is they have to spin faster in order to get more air to go through the unit, which means they have to spin really or they're spinning really fast and loud, which makes them more annoying. And that's been one of the complaints that people that I've heard from people on the Delta Pros and the Bluettis, is that the fans are pretty loud, especially on the Bluetti. Even when it's fully charged, it's still running the fans. On the Delta Pros, if it's got a wall charger going in, it runs the fans no matter what. But if you're just doing solar input and then AC output, then the fans are only on when there's a heavy load or lots of solar coming in. And one of the other questions that I've gotten is, well, some people were like, you were all about the Apollo and then you're going to the EG4 stuff. What's the problem, or why the switch? And I didn't switch. I just wanted to clarify. I like both options. Basically, as you'll see in coming videos, hopefully I'll have that video done by the end of this week, maybe next week. I'm going to run my entire house off of the Apollos for like 2 weeks, just to show and test that they can do it. It's for my own benefit. I want to know that these can do it. And then you guys will know if these are reliable enough to do that. I have mini split air conditioners, not central AC, so it's going to be a little bit different for those who have central AC. But with 4 units, because I have 2 of these that are still in the box, I'm going to be able to have up to 240 volts and 50 amps output, which is 12,000 watts of output capacity. So if you just think of a 12,000 watt gas generator, that's equivalent to running that would be the equivalent output capacity. So a lot of people use gas generators of that size to back up their entire house for hurricanes and flood or whatever, which, by the way, this hurricane season is already ramping up. Looks like it's going to be a doozy for sure. Looks like it's going to be a pretty cold winter here in Idaho as well. But bottom line is I'm going to have 12,000 watts of output capacity. There's 5.4 kilowatt hours of battery in each one of these units. And then I'm going to be adding the expansion battery. So in total, I'm going to have 43 kilowatt hours of battery capacity and 12,000 watts of output capacity. So that was the question so that was my point, was I love these because of their expandability. I've done similar work with the Delta Pros, and they are good. They do have some limitations, like on the solar input, 1600 watts input only, and that's really hard to reach, whereas these have 5,000 watts of solar input. 600 watts of that is reserved for the inverter, but you can do up to 4,400 watts into the battery directly. So we'll call it 4.4 for a little bit more fair comparison, but technically that has no reserve for solar input for the inverter at max load. Either way, we're trying to do some sort of apples to apples comparison, and this would have 4.4 kilowatts solar input. That has 16. So this has 3 times the amount of solar input. And since solar is the refueling source during an emergency, that's what you need the most of. And then as well, enough battery to be able to get through a single night at least, running all of the vital equipment. And then of course, big enough inverters to be able to handle all the loads that you're going to be running. So the bottom line is I really like the Apollo because of its expandability. I was limited to that on these other units. I'll put 4 of these together, but with the EG4, I can also expand immensely. This 18K PV inverter is a 12,000 watt inverter. It's going to be the same comparable output to having 4 of these Apollos. And then I'm going to have 31 kilowatt hours battery capacity between the 6 LifePower 4 batteries. And so those are going to be really nice. And I'm going to show you step by step how to do a full install on my house. I've already got those videos in the works. They're just not edited, not ready to get out yet. I'm going to be showing you the step-by-step process, going through the permitting and the drawings and everything like that. But the bottom line difference is this, with my EG4 setup, will be able to backfeed to the grid to give me a credit, because I can't get money anymore, a credit on my electricity bill. So in the event that I do need power from the power company, I have that credit built up. And going over it very, very generally, there are more details there, but I can't take it with me. So if I need to bug out to my cabin, which is off-grid anyway, I wouldn't have to bring stuff with me. But if I had to bug out, or if I wanted to take my investment with me, I'm hoping to move here in the next year. And if I want to take that investment with me, that's very, very difficult to do. Solar panels are going to be permanently mounted to the roof, all of those things. Everything's going to be hardwired into the house. I wouldn't want to have to decommission the whole thing. That's going to be a real pain in the neck. But with the Apollos, I could take it with me. Now, if I did do a permanent solar installation, then yeah, the solar panels are most likely going to stay, but the solar panels are the cheapest part of a solar installation, which is backwards from what door-to-door sales reps tell you, because you pretty much only buy solar panels from them, and they charge ridiculous amounts for those solar panels to be installed. Either way, we're going to be going off-grid for less than 50 grand, and that should basically run everything permanently 365, even through poor weather, whether it's the Apollo setup or the EG4 18K PV setup. So I'm going to be doing both. So to answer that question, sorry this is long-winded on that part, but just I like both. It depends on your goal. For me, my goal is having emergency preparedness, having backups, but also for education. I love teaching this. I love sharing this. This is my hobby. This is what I do. I absolutely love it. I'm a total solar nerd. I absolutely love it. So for those reasons, I'm going to be doing both options. And for the Apollo, you can't see it right now, but it's next to my freeze dryer. Back here, these are more units that I have videos coming out on that are pretty cool. Right back here, I have my interlock switch. And my interlock switch allows me to take any generator, whether it's solar or gas, and power up my entire electrical panel. So that's how I'm going to run my entire house off of the Apollos. There's no permits or anything necessary. You can just flip the switch and run your house. Your electrical company may be upset about that, but overall, there's nothing that says you can't just run your house from a backup power source. So that's how it's going to differ from this EG4 setup, because that will be permanently connected to where it is backfeeding to the grid. And then my goal is to be a microgrid. And a microgrid is where we can use the grid if we need to. So the grid becomes our backup. We live 100% off grid, but we technically have a grid connection that we can switch to if we need to. But if the grid is out during some sort of emergency where we need to do maintenance on these or something like that, then we would use a gas generator or propane generator to then cover the power needs of the house, something like that. So a lot of things going on. I've got more batteries to test. I've got new units that I'm going to be showing off in addition to the Apollos, but I wanted to give you this update about the Apollo because so far now I'm absolutely loving it. And I know this video is probably a little shaky, audio is not as good. I just wanted to get you the information. I'm absolutely loving it. Everyone who's pre-ordered, I think, got a really good deal. I'm especially happy about that, and I think you're going to be amazed with what the Apollos can do, because you can expand up to 12 of these. You can have up to 10 batteries. The solar input is just incredible. So far no issues, and I'm going to keep you guys posted, and I appreciate you guys following and subscribing and liking. Share with anybody who would be interested in having this kind of backup. We have people who have ordered these that are running huge compounds. I shouldn't say compounds, but like resorts, where they've got multiple cabins or multiple RVs, stuff like that, where they're able to run their water all the time, power those off-grid sites all the time, just by using systems like these. So very interesting stuff, very cool, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see y'all in the next one.